Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. I'm Beatrice Murad, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hey, y'all.
And Steve Zeck.
Hi.
Today we will be recapping the 7th and 8th episodes of She-Ra Season 4, Mermysteries, and Boys Night Out, which dropped along with the rest of the season earlier. I was about to say this month, but it's December now. Oh boy. Last month. Earlier last month. Time. It's passing. Way too quickly. Warning, all of us have seen Season 4 in its entirety. We will be discussing these episodes and how they interact with the rest of the season. So spoilers for everything in Season 4, but especially for these two episodes. You can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. So yeah. Tell me your general, quickly, briefly, because we'll get into more deeply into these episodes, but tell me your general thoughts on these two episodes, Delaney.
So, Mermysteries is like a work of art.
Thank you. Thank you.
So good. So I don't normally rewatch episodes, but I mean, She-Ra is so good. So I did rewatch both episodes, and when I wasn't sure which episode, like I was like, okay, 7 or 8, whatever, they're all good. And then I was like, oh, it's Mermysteries. I love Mermysteries. Boys Night Out is like fine. It's mainly because like I don't like Seahawk is not my favorite character.
What?
I know, shocking. But I do really like, I'm always here for Adora and Glimmer Angst because like I feed off of it. And then I also, the rock opera was like, that's amazing. Like, that's so good. That was great. But Mermysteries is like such a good episode. And it plays into all sorts of things that I like. Like, it's so good.
Yeah. And I was actually surprised by how much angst, because I rewatched the episodes and I thought, wow, there was a lot of Glimmer Adora angst in these two episodes.
Yeah, just
like,
back to back. The entire season is like sadness, but then these two specific episodes are like, oh my god, can someone like hug? Hug.
I thought this was sort of a turning point of Glimmer's arc of this season.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be getting into that turn. But beside that, Steve, general thoughts about these two episodes.
Oh, I specifically has to be a podcast for these episodes because I sort of consider myself like a big Mermista fan, number one Mermista fan, which might be one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of Seahawk either. Because
what is this with Seahawk? No, unacceptable.
I love Mermista. Okay, I'm just joking around there, but I love these episodes. Mermista, I was so waiting for when she get the spotlights. I love the Mermista spotlight episode, and I was sort of like, Netflix did make a mistake on one of the early episodes, episode 2. When they mistakenly list Mermista instead of Perfuma, which they fixed later on. But that was such a letdown because I'm like, I thought it was going to be a big Mermista episode. It wasn't. But that's okay because I love Perfuma too. But I also love this 7th episode reminded me of movies like Clue. I don't know if you ever seen that movie. Yeah, it gave me Clue vibes and I loved it. Even though there wasn't much of a mystery, like we knew who the culprit was. And I kind of wish though maybe at what's Double Trouble's alter ego's name? I forget her name. Flutterina. I kind of wish the Flutterina's debut episode did not reveal that yet, because I was watching that episode. I was like watching the Discord. I'm like, as soon as the episode's over, I'm going to state my theory, and then they gave it away. So, and yeah, it was great. I just loved it. And as for and I love the song, the music, especially the reprise with Mermista and Seahawk. Friends fight with friends.
Yeah. So kind of segue into that earlier point you made, Steve. Let's start with Mermysteries, which is episode 7. Very interesting. I kind of also, not that I felt the same way, but I was curious because the episode itself, it's so great, it's so entertaining, but I couldn't help but think, would it have been a little bit more interesting had we not known who Double Trouble was?
Actually, I don't think so. Because, granted, you also have to think, like, you know, obviously they planned it knowing.
Right.
But for me, like, part of it is torture. They're torturing you the entire episode. Right. They're torturing you.
But
And because the thing is, the twist it's not the twist of the episode. It's kind of like subversion, like
right,
because we know the whole time, and so the twist is because we're like, God, they're so stupid, but the twist is they know, and so that was really good. And I think like that's what I really like about it. I don't think it would have been as entertaining, just mainly because like you rewatch things and you catch things later, but I think it would have taken a lot away from the episode if you were watching, just trying to figure out who it was. Does that make sense? Like, you would have been distracted.
Totally. I mean, it would have been a different episode. I mean, the tone wouldn't have been the same. Like, you couldn't have been able to take such a comedic tone if this was going to be the big reveal.
The problem is, though, we know all the characters, so we knew none of them would be like us, like double agents. So that's why when Double Trouble created this Frost. No, what's the? I keep forgetting her name. Fredorina. I'll get it. Fredorina's alter ego. We sort of was stuck in a place we couldn't get out of in terms of it being a mystery because unless they really unless like a character like Perfuma or even Mermista, maybe we could just say maybe they had a dark side, deep side that we never knew about because they didn't get much screen time throughout the series compared to like a Glimmer or Dora. If you know what I mean?
The real strength of this, especially the season, is in the show is we play both sides. We don't just see She-Ra and the heroes; we see Catra and the villains, and that's also part of what makes the show so compelling. Is because we love our heroes just as much as we love our villains. So I think that's the main part. That's what made Double Trouble such a great character. Is we got to see the Double Trouble not just be a great character themselves, but also the interplay between Double Trouble and Catra.
Yeah.
So, you had to know, like, immediately, which honestly, because it's such a weak disguise for the viewer, it's a very weak disguise that it really works out. It works really well. And I think it also plays, like, really, like, you're just so frustrated the whole time because they're so dumb.
Oh, and when you mentioned how we loved our heroes and villain characters, and when we get to overall thoughts of the series later on, I do sort of have something I want to say about that because I'm really excited about what could happen next season. But
before that, I do agree. I think like something that's really kind of smart that the show did is the usage of Double Trouble. Because the entire theme, I think, of this season is miscommunication. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Just not talking. And the whole the whole chaos that Double Trouble brings is based on miscommunication. And this is like the episode where if they had just all talked to each other, they would have figured out that, hey, I wasn't here at this time and I wasn't here. So this is them all talking. And I think it was just a very clever kind of using the mystery kind of storytelling as a way to kind of really emphasize actually forcing someone to sit down and interrogating them. It's like, yes, let's talk. Let's get into this kind of miscommunication issues that these characters have.
And Perfuma figured it all out.
Exactly. Yeah, Perfuma. Which also, I kind of love her notes. When she's
her notes are great.
She's so cute.
She's like, slam the table. And then writing down the name of the book. Which also, Perfuma, I think was great this episode.
She's a great Watson.
Yeah, great counter to Mermista.
Really, I think the point of this episode was just to show off Mermista's sneakers as much as possible. I think that was actually the point of the episode.
I mean, also to show off that she can, on cue, let thunder.
I practice at home.
And then, and I kind of have a theory that every time we saw lightning, especially when we cut to Catra, and and eventually we'll see like lightning happening. I'm like, that's Mermista making that happen every single time, and just forcing everyone.
So obviously we know she can do the weather and stuff, but I'm also in my head, I'm like, what if she just practices with storms? Like, it's not her necessarily; she just practices with storms.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like? You mean like Zuko redirecting fire thing type of thing?
Well, I mean,
I literally mean like she counts and she like the storm's already happening and she practices with the storm.
I mean, it would make sense because if you think like, what are clouds? Clouds are technically water, right? Just in a different way. So
I just don't know if we've seen her obviously she can control water.
No, totally. I mean, I'm not. I agree. I don't think she's creating the storm. I think it's just once the storm is there, she can manipulate.
She knows.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're saying that she just can sense when it's happening and just times it.
And she practices. Yes.
Okay, I thought it was more like, she's manipulating the clouds.
No, in my head, I think she just when it's storming, she practices.
Oh, I just thought
I kind of like even better, to be honest. I like that even better.
Yeah, that's cool. I thought you were trying to say she's stronger when it rains, but I get it now.
But I mean, maybe. Maybe it's like, is Glimmer stronger when like the moon shines? I think so. That's actually a fact, though, right?
Something like that.
Something. So I mean, maybe when it rains, Remissa, or maybe I don't know, when she's closer to water. I don't know. But let's move on to some things. Actually, I'm curious. Were there any particular kind of reactions or characters that stood out to you in the episode? Like for me, it was Bo and Seahawk, because I can't believe
that.
For me, it was Spinnerella and what's her name,
Natasha. Yeah, that's actually really cute. They interrupted their date. The investigation was happening, they interrupted their date.
How dare they? Unforgivable.
Which, and it's a split second. If you don't pause the screen, you'll only really just get a sense of their expressions being just over this entire investigation. But if you notice, they'll be like, they had these kind of butlers behind them with violins. They were dressed really nice. I'm just saying, people, you should freeze frame that and really take a look, because they really did interrupt this date that they had. And I just can't help but think we were robbed of getting a shot of that date. More of it.
I was hoping maybe they would be a big key and maybe unlocking Double Trouble in terms of Double Trouble trying to impersonate one of them, that they would know their soulmate better than anyone, and even Double Trouble could not fool them.
I mean, that would have been cool. I mean, maybe in an earlier episode, maybe not have had them find it out, but maybe have them be have that couple be the one that we use to be like, oh, they're starting to sense something is up. That would have been.
You know what? I think you didn't know about the early episodes when Double Trouble infiltrated them. They did not at least come to the conclusion that at least there's a spy among them. They kept saying other things like tracking devices and stuff.
Right, because it's fair. That's a fair kind of.
I'm not saying they had to figure out who the spy was, but just figure out there as a spy. Period would have been nice.
Okay, so you think that it would have been better if they had already kind of figured out that there was some sort of spy earlier in the season.
Yes, and then finally, we got to figure out who this person is, once and for all, because they keep screwing our missions up.
What about Delaney? Do you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I might have missed that.
Do you think that they should have introduced the idea that there might have been a spy earlier in the season?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was, they were really just feeding into that, we're just going to be frustrated watching them. I don't think it really detracts. I mean, they could have, but I mean, this was definitely something that couldn't have been played out for more than one episode.
Yeah.
So I think what they did was probably the best, best case scenario, because I mean, it was so obvious. We have this new person and everything keeps going wrong. Maybe it's the new person. It's so dumb.
And is there a Flutterina somewhere? A real Flutterina? I keep wondering that. And Sam says there's not, but
so we don't know. I mean, Flutterina, because the thing is, Double Trouble did make a comment saying that they created the character of Flutterina, that Flutterina didn't exist before. They said something along those lines in an earlier episode. So,
but for what it's worth, in the original 80s show, there is a character called Flutterina, so.
Okay, well, we don't know. There might be, there might not be. I think it would have been cool if maybe, there was actual, intense, murder happening where Double Trouble just kills Flutterina and then takes over.
Just kills a kid.
I don't know. That would have been, holds Flutterina hostage, in the Horde or something. I don't know. That could have been interesting, but no, we don't know yet. Not yet, but we just don't know. I think that's just going to be something that people are just going to have theories about.
If we never see the real Flutterina, we're going to assume that she doesn't exist.
Yeah, basically. I personally really liked Bo and Seahawk. I loved Bo just thinking, I'm the spy, because that's something. Yeah. I think that was
And Frost being like, "You're not the spy."
Yeah, and I just love the details that they use with Seahawk. We're just constantly saying it. I defeated 100 soldiers, no, 1,000, and then eventually it's like 300, and then it's just the number kept changing. And while Seahawk kept squatting, and I thought, wow, Seahawk, you and me are very much the same, because I would want to show off my squats as well. So, Seahawk, you are all wrong about Seahawk. You're wrong. He's great.
No.
Moving on to Shadow Weaver, because Shadow Weaver was like the first obvious suspect, and we learn a couple things in this kind of interrogation that Adora and Glimmer have with Shadow Weaver. Glimmer decided that Shadow Weaver doesn't need soldiers anymore. And we kind of gloss over this decision. You know, a lot of things are happening. We're not going to get a better explanation than simply she's been nothing but helpful so far, so we should trust her.
Well, for all her Glimmer's like bad choices this season, this is the one I really disagree with. I mean, every other choice I can actually see her point of view for why she would do it, but this one I don't get it. I mean, unless she probably uses her father against her, like saying, "You remind me so much of Michael," and just manipulate her that way. But
do you agree? Like, is this because something, especially watching these 2 episodes, not only in Succession but in just on their own, it really made me kind of lose a bit of it made Glimmer lose a little bit of the shine in a way that I had for her. I mean, I just really got really annoyed with her in these 2 episodes. Do you think, like, was this like, I mean, what do you take from this kind of decision that Glimmer made without, like, do you buy it? Do you, like, understand? Are you trying to still believe in Glimmer? Or by this point, you're just like, Glimmer, what are you doing?
No, I mean, I think that's really the strength of the season, is that they make everything very legitimate on both sides. And, like, so obviously,
so you think this is illegitimate? You think this decision that Glimmer made for Shadow Weaver is
I wouldn't have done it, and I don't agree with it. But
I wouldn't either.
Like, Shadow Weaver, she's sketchy, but in Glimmer's defense, up to this point, like, from Shadow Weaver's capture to now, she hasn't done anything to merit being, like, not trusted. Like, it's hard not to take her at her word at this moment. Granted, she's super sketchy. Like, she is, like, she's always, like, she's the sketchiest character in the universe. And I don't trust her, but, and I mean, granted, and it's so terrifying that she gardens. Like, oh my god. But, like, the morning ritual thing, that was also a really good scene. Like, that was really fun.
Yeah.
So I think, like, I buy it. Like, I understand. Like, it makes sense. Because, I mean, really what this boils down to is the problem is Glimmer and Adora's friendship right now. Their relationship is, I mean, it's crumbling because they're both trying to go at it alone instead of together. So, I mean, really, if they would just talk to each other, they probably, like, granted, Adora is also...
okay, yeah, because technically, Glimmer is sending Adora and Bo on missions at this point in the season. Like, at this point, she's not abandoning Glimmer. So Glimmer has a couple lines where she goes, "You and Bo are leaving me," and I'm like, wait, Glimmer, you're sending them.
Well, they tell her she can't come. Like, they're like, we're gonna go do this, like, because, you know, she's the queen, she needs to stay. Like,
but that's different than her being like, "You're abandoning me."
No, I mean, they're both super dramatic. But, like, the thing is, like, they're...
And does Dora really have a right to be mad if she's the decoy and they tell her she's going to be the decoy? If they just, if they go behind your back and make you're a decoy without letting her be in on it, I can understand her point.
But now she is in on it. Now she is, like, she wasn't on it. But you were saying, Delaney.
I mean, it's just complicated, but they're, like, well, I was just going to talk about Shadow Weaver, that Adora has very valid feelings about Shadow Weaver, but she also can't be objective about Shadow Weaver.
Right.
Granted, that's the same thing for Glimmer now, too, since Shadow Weaver's, like, pseudo-mom now.
I mean, that far? That's how... is she pseudo-mom? Or... She's
at least... now her mentor, she's the one who's teaching her magic.
Right, yeah. Okay. I guess. I mean, I don't know. Pseudo mom, that's a kind of... I wouldn't go as far as say pseudo-mom, but yes, definitely a teacher that Glimmer has woefully wanted. And kind of the more sorcerer side. So maybe more of like a link to her dad, if anything, is more what I'm reading from the Shadow Weaver Glimmer relationship. Like a link, not that she's her pseudo dad, but more like, oh, she's my link to my dad.
Right.
Versus my link to my mom, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's just, I don't know, Glimmer, I mean, it's a lot. But we do get this very interesting and wonderful scene between Glimmer and Adora. That means nothing by the end of the episode because situations outside of situation that happen in the world force any sort of progress to be pushed back. But
are you talking about in Glimmer? Are you talking about the scene in Glimmer's room?
Yes,
or
yes, no, that one, the Glimmadora scene, that
right,
where it's. All right, so here's the thing: the show is doing things just from a filmmaking perspective that it's like I have to take note of. All right, like they are really focusing on whenever it's a solo Glimmer Adora scene. Yes, they're fighting a lot. But whenever they're trying to make up, whenever they're really focusing on their hands.
Right.
And the last time there was this much emphasis on like a hand hold for me, I mean, it's like honestly, when it comes to two women that can't be overtly romantic because censorship, often the case is they're trying to focus a lot on the hands. This was the ending of The Legend of Korra.
Yeah.
I mean, not even in the ending, but just like at the end of book 3, when Asami just like reaches out and holds her hand, like close up to the hand.
Yeah,
it's like they have to make these it's like a very conscious choice.
There's also I think it's in this scene she like rubs her arm.
Yes.
Like I really noticed it on the rewatch. And it was, I mean, these are very subtle but pointed movements.
And it's I can't ignore
it's
that.
Gay.
Exactly. It's so gay. It's just, you can't look at that and tell me, oh, I mean, that the show basically can easily write it off as the power of friendship. But even
oh my God, are we setting up this? Oh, I don't like love triangles, but if we're gonna get a lesbian love triangle, I'm about it.
Look, I don't know. Okay, I don't know if we're gonna do love triangle, but I'm there from the beginning, from the first episode of this season. The way Adora says things to Glimmer in these moments of like of support and emotionally charged moments.
Well, she didn't just say we need you here. She said I need you.
But
here.
that is, and this isn't the first time where
like if that was a guy saying it, everyone would be like, oh.
Look, and this isn't the first time in this season where she's separated the we and the I, because in that very first episode she goes, I need to protect you. Like she told, like I'm protecting you. It wasn't. We will help you.
That's more than just BFFs. That's like deep feelings there.
Am I reading too much into this? I don't know. You tell me. The show is telling me it's zooming on the hands, and I'm just saying these, like, they're planting things out with these two that I'm noticing it, and this was a really big scene in that sense.
And I would say I think the biggest support for what you're saying is that this season is kind of the slow game of what we've already seen happen between Catra and Adora, which I don't know how you watch this show and you don't think Catra is in love with Adora.
I do think these subverted things a bit, though. How in the first few seasons it was sort of a Adora Catra sort of parallels, but I thought this season was like Glimmer Catra parallels. How they're both going to similar stuff. Even the creator even said so at the Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. She said that this was very similar path these two characters be going, and see how the season ends.
Well, it's like what I said in the overall podcast is that Catra and Glimmer are extremely similar. They'll do whatever they need to get what they want. Yeah. They just have different methods.
Yeah. Yeah, but here's the thing. Now with Shadow Weaver's influences, those methods are seemingly less and less different.
Right. But there's also the motivation. Like,
right, no, the motivations are different, yeah.
Which I did talk about. For me, intents and results, like if you, like, you know, like that's just my personal belief, is that it doesn't matter what your intention was if your end result is something horrible. Because in this, by the time we get to the end of the season, like, so Catra caused the end of the world. Well, that was her fault. Well, if Glimmer hadn't done what she had done, Horde Prime wouldn't have found them.
Right.
And you know, when Glimmer said to Adora, "Were you jealous that you're not Shadow Weaver's favorite
That's
no more?"
Very
I was
Catra,
hoping, I would love if they would have cut to Catra and she like sneezed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that was a very Catra line, which is interesting. And yeah, it's interesting. The differences between Catra and Glimmer are interesting, because Glimmer says she's doing it for Bright Moon. She's doing all this for selfless reasons in a way. But at the end of the day, and Catra, like, she pulled the switch for very selfish reasons. Right, but she almost ended the world for selfish reasons. But then at the end of the day, they're both still
like the same thing happened.
Yeah. Exactly, like bad things happen at the end.
And one difference they have, though, is Glimmer, she had parents. As far as we know, Catra was an orphan all her life, so that could be what separates them a bit.
Well, I believe how it works is that the Horde, like, abducts them, and then but the big thing is, like, so I mean, they even parallel it with Catra has been manipulating Scorpio all this time, and then even though Glimmer, we talked about it in the podcast, I'm still not sure if she really meant it about, you know, being Scorpio's friend and how Scorpio, you know, deserves it, like that. But she, I mean, even regardless of, like, even if she meant it, she manipulated Scorpio into taking the Black Garnet, and even though they had different reasons for doing it, they did the same stuff. Granted, Catra is way worse than Glimmer. I'm not gonna lie.
I think there's definitely more malice from Catra's point of view towards Scorpio. I really don't think Glimmer is doing this on purpose. She really thinks she's, like, manipulating her. I think Glimmer in her heart truly believes what she is spouting. So
I think with Glimmer the difference is that she thinks what she's doing is right and necessary to protect Bright Moon, whereas with Catra, she's very much aware that what she's doing is selfish. And
I mean, literally, we're dealing with chaotic good and chaotic evil.
Exactly. Like, that is a great way to put it. Where they're both similar vein, but it's like the intentions are different. But, like,
I would say Adora is probably lawful good.
Yeah.
In a way,
at this point, that might change.
Well, then, what is Entrapta? Is she just chaotic? Like,
she might be chaotic neutral.
Yeah, chaotic neutral.
Yeah, there you go. That exists. I forgot that existed.
On the subject of Glimmer and Catra's parallels, we just mentioned, you know, in a way, how they're different. Chaotic good, chaotic evil. It sort of reminds me of Katara and Azula. I mean, they're both so, like, opposite ends, but they're kind of similar in ways, because I've seen, like what Glimmer said in, I think, episode 8, when she said, "Well, you weren't good enough. My mother would still be here." We'll get
to that line. Don't jump ahead. We're gonna get to that line, because that's the next big scene with Glimmer. And that's episode 8. We're not there yet. Okay. But let's then wrap up episode 7. We do get, so Double Trouble gets caught, reveals themselves, and reveals the Horde's plan. That this was all, like, even if Double Trouble getting caught wasn't part of the plan, this was all a diversion, because the Horde has taken Selenius, which is Mermista's kingdom. And this is cuts to this dramatic moment where Glimmer teleports Adora and Mermista and possibly Bo. I don't remember if Bo was there. And takes them to Selenius, and all we see is the destruction of the Horde, that the Horde has left Selenius. And I just mini rant, because I talked about this in a previous episode coverage of this season. We have never seen people in Selenius. The only time we see them is in the next episode, when we actually see the people of Selenius. Whenever we actually went to the kingdom, when we saw the gate, Mermista was basically there by herself and with Seahawk. That was it.
Right.
All right, and another thing is maybe we did in the first season, but maybe we need a little bit of reminder. We need a little bit more emphasis on these locations, because if the show is actually going to go all in on, oh, these places are tactically important for the sake of the war, they need to establish these things. They need to add meaning to these locations, not just suddenly expect us to care about the destruction of these kingdoms simply because, like, I don't know. I just think if they actually had, I'm not saying that we needed to see people being, like, killed and destroyed.
I'm pretty sure there's a dead body in this scene.
I didn't see a dead body. All I saw was fire. But I'm just saying,
when they pan down to the water, I'm like, is that a dead body? I'm still not sure.
I think all you need to be.
I'm just saying we needed either screams. We needed, or if not we needed to actually establish that there were people that were living in this kingdom before this episode.
I think. Go ahead.
I think what we could have used, if we're not going to show anything, at the very least earlier in the series, we could have gone there and met a couple of characters. That way, like, when we find out that the land has been, like, invaded, that it's been conquered, at least we can think, oh no, so-and-so's there. Oh, are they all right?
Here's an idea. Instead of, like, the place that Flutterina's from, make her be from Selenius. Like, make it just that. Make it that switch. Just have it be that they had been trying to conquer Selenius for a while. They had failed, thankfully, because Shiro was there, whatever. And now they succeeded because Shiro and them, and then make it there, and then not, and I'm not saying we needed to see them, but we had already made that connection by establishing, oh, these characters that aren't necessarily important, but you're already giving us them because you decided to give us this party and whatever, so you're already doing these funds to create these characters. Just make them from Selenius, and suddenly we have more to care about this place.
No, I disagree. So... Because the thing is, the place isn't important. Like
it
that.
Is though.
They
dedicate lines saying this is important because we need to take over the seas to be able to control.
Well, that's it. That's all that matters. Well, the thing is, like,
but not the moment. We needed it before.
No, this season, like, this doesn't matter. Like, the tactics don't matter. One, because this whole season we're just waiting for Horde Prime to show up. But like, the thing is, it doesn't matter about the place. It wouldn't have mattered if they conquered the North, because what matters, and that's what this show is, like, since season 1, this isn't about places or things. Yes, they want to save Etheria, but, like, the focuses are these princesses. And that's what sells this scene. This is what sells this episode, and especially the next episode, is, like, Mermista breaks down, and then also Glimmer gives this great speech. Glimmer's crying, Adora's almost crying, like, because to me, that's what sells the scene. It doesn't matter that it's Selenius. It wouldn't have mattered if... I mean, it's the same thing with Bright Moon. Like, I don't care about Bright Moon. We care about Bright Moon because of Glimmer in them. Yes, there are 2 extra characters who are from Bright Moon, but, I mean, it's Selenius and Seahawk. That's why we care about... I mean, Mermista and Seahawk. That's why we care about Selenius. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't think it matters. And the thing is, it also really doesn't matter because we're going to be in space next season. So, like, I don't think this is a misstep. We have 13 episodes. Me and my fiance were watching this episode and we were devastated because when they started talking about the battle, we were like, oh no, Mermista. And that's really, this episode, it's called Mermysteries. Mm-hmm. And this is you were talking about, Steve, you really like Mermista, like, she's your number one Mermista stan.
Yeah.
Well, this is her episode, and it's all about her. And then at the end, her kingdom has been conquered by the Horde. Like, it's great, and I don't think we really needed anything before this.
I strongly disagree. The fact that someone can say, "I don't care about Bright Moon," that means this show is meaningless. This show is just saying that's a weakness of the show, in my opinion. Is what I'm saying.
Well, the thing is, we have. Okay, do you feel really? Okay, do you feel really strongly about the Fire Nation as a place?
Yes.
But why? Like, my thing is, it's not because it's a
they
place
did the work
and it's on a map.
You see a culture. You see that they decided to introduce different things for the Earth Kingdom,
Well-
Fire Kingdom. They're all distinct
Well,
places.
at the very least, like
They
this reminds-
actually gave us things, and we actually got to explore them when Aang had this great adventure. We went to each one and got to know these places, these cultures, these people.
they
but
did a
this-
similar.
But it's different because it
Well,
has
this
more
series-
episodes, so they're allowed
Well,
to.
this
But I'm just
episode-
saying, this is a weakness of the show.
This episode ending is like the ending of the episode when it revealed that Omashu had been taken over at Fire Nation, and we had an episode when we went to Omashu beforehand. So, like,
I'm just saying it could have easily been.
But you only
tweaked if they
cared
had
about
just-
Omashu because of Boomy. Like, this isn't, it doesn't matter that it's a place. And another thing, I will say, Avatar and
I care
She-Ra
about the cabbage dude, the cabbage man. He's there too.
they're very different. Like, the thing is, Avatar is a travel log. It's a travel journey story. Like, you literally go different places. We spend the majority of She-Ra in the Bright Moon tactical room. Like, if we're probably going to go scene by scene, we spend most of our time in that room and the Fright Zone. It doesn't, like...
I mean, but the first season was a travelogue when they went to each princess.
Yes,
Like,
and they
that-
recruited the prince. Like, the thing is that it's also different in that, so Aang had to learn all 4 elements. They had to, like, be
Look,
undercover.
I'm not comparing Avatar to this.
But no,
I'm just
but
saying that.
Well, I disagree. This isn't a weakness because it's like that's not what this show is about. Like, it's not about the cultures of these I agree these places are not defined, but it's not a weakness because they're not, in RWBY, they don't tell you anything and then they tell you random stuff, and that's a weakness. Here, they're not trying to tell, they don't want
they
you
do
to
the same
care.
thing, though. They're telling you random stuff.
You go to Selenius and it's been destroyed and you're sad for Mermista. This show is character driven based on the
I'm sad for
princesses and
Mermista.
Adora.
But
Exactly.
you
Like,
could
why
say,
does it
but you
matter?
could say the
Why
same thing that with like Weiss and how like Atlas represents Weiss and also represents all these things, like all like
we don't have politics in this show because we're just trying to keep the Horde from murdering everybody. That's it.
but I disagree. We do have politics in the show. The whole first one's discussions, the whole Horde discussions. I mean, there has been on Discord questions about, okay, well, is this a white savior trope? Is this not? What does these things mean?
That's not political.
But, I mean, I think it is political, though.
Are we gonna have
it's
democracy
the
at
whole
the end?
question about colonization. If colonization is not political, I don't know what is political. Like, there are discussions about these things. So I very much disagree, and I think the show is has a weakness in here.
Well, they're not defining. Here we'll talk about the colonization thing you brought up. This isn't about the individual cultures of Etheria. It's about Etheria as a whole.
Well, I'm saying if they're going to make emphasis on these if they are going to place emphasis, which they have, on these areas because they are important for reasons X, Y, and Z, and because these reasons, we are going to do the things that we do, and we're going to do these actions that are going to propel the plot forward, and we don't have, and it's just like these random things that are meaningless. I do think that's valid to say in my opinion, I do think that's weak storytelling in that aspect. Not saying that
it's
the
not
show
weak.
in general,
It's not weak
I'm just saying,
storytelling. You're picking at the world building.
Just
to be fair, this
isn't storytelling.
This isn't a narrative issue. Like, it's not like they misstepped and like said something wrong. This is a world building issue, and I would say like the core things of like the entire show is just based off the She-Ra mythos. I would agree that we have weakness in world building, but this isn't. I just don't. This isn't like these areas are. They're not going to matter because we're going to be in space, and then this is about Etheria as a whole. They're just trying to reunite because like the only like we haven't even talked about these places since season 1.
At the very least, we should more consistently show the Horde beating up these colonies, see what they do, how they terrorize them. So at least we know the consequences of
that's been the entire show. Like we've been watching them destroy places the whole series.
But with their robots, I'm talking about like it's not the same. We have like. We get to see like Ketra and the others actually do it themselves. It kind of loses a little bit when it's just robots.
That's what the Horde does.
All right. Well, let's.
Why do I feel like I'm bold here?
I'm
that
bold
discussion.
Here.
You guys are Glimmer in a door just fighting, and I'm just the guy. In the
Let's put a glimmer on that glimmer. Let's put sticker or something on that discussion for now. And let's move on to the final big thing on this episode before we move on to episode 8, because we have 2 episodes to talk about in this podcast.
Oh, yeah, one other thing. In fact, I don't think She-Ra's in this episode.
You're correct.
I'm not sure. I can't confirm nor deny.
I think you're right. She-Ra is not in this episode unless she's not at all.
Yeah, nope. I think
because I was thinking she's not even when they're like when they go through their little like noir flashback. She's not because she wasn't there. She wasn't at Drill.
Yeah, that's the thing I remember. Not much She-Ra, and this is also a lot of good Mermista Perfuma moments.
Yeah.
It's sort of my
you know who was in this episode? Horde Prime.
Yes, he was at the end.
At the very, very end. I'm kind of thrown by the whole like green color combination. I wasn't expecting that when I first saw it.
His hair messes me.
Yeah, he's not Hordak is all I'm gonna say.
Well, that was the thing. Well, they were like, I'm a clone, and then we're like, y'all don't look alike.
No.
It's like what?
Hordak
got a haircut, and he's like, I'm different.
But yeah, so that's another really big moment in episode 8. I was actually surprised. Episode 7. I was surprised that we got to see Hordak Prime so soon.
Yeah, I wasn't anticipating that.
Yeah.
Well, didn't we see him the end of last season?
Maybe, yes. But I don't think we saw like this much of a close up. I think it was more like maybe we did. I don't know. I'm just surprised that things are happening.
I don't think we saw him. I think we saw the ship and he like talked.
Right.
Oh.
It was more like an outline. My memories of anything past before these 2 episodes is fuzzy at best. So let's move on to episode 8, Boys Night Out. And basically, with tensions running high, and Bo out of sorts, Seahawk suggests that they have a boys' night out. Him, Bo, and Swiftwind.
And Swiftwind's like, I want to come.
And they have this song, which I'm going to say right now is the best song of the show.
Which one? They're like...
Well, the reprise with Mermista is what makes it great. But this isn't a very song-heavy show, but this is the best song of the show.
I would argue that Mermista's song's a different song, and that one's the best.
Me too.
Whether it's different or not, that's the best one. Whenever Mermista's singing, that we win.
Yes.
I think. It's
I'll tell you, Seahawk's all right, but he's no Pearl, so I'm just saying.
You're not wrong.
But we're not here to. Why are you gonna do Seahawk dirty like that and compare him to Pearl? Like, why would you?
His rhymes are rough.
Look, he's not trying to be Pearl. He's trying to be Seahawk. And he's trying his very best. All right, he's trying his very best. So yeah, the boys are ambushed by a group of bounty hunters or pirates. I don't know the difference.
I think they were just
pirates or bounty hunters with boats. That's the
I think they're bounty hunters. I think they were just normal like ship captains, and then when the Horde took over, they just got corrupted and just say us, which has become mercenaries.
Well, these mercenaries, Seahawk, basically Seahawk was like, this is all part of my plan. I paid them to capture us so that the girls would come save us. And of course, the plan backfires, and
because these plans never worked.
And just like Flutterina, what happened to Bill?
Bill?
Yeah, Bill. He was the one he paid. So Seahawk lost money. He paid Bill, and Bill didn't even do his job.
Yeah,
I think those guys took care of him. I think they kidnapped Bill or something. They took him out of the equation. So
happened
that's how
they screen.
do. Yeah.
Happen off screen, or this is where the theories will come into play. So basically they're trapped for real, they're kidnapped for real, and they are able to contact the girls because Seahawk knows how to speak Seagull, which is great. But what the most interesting things that are happening, even though the episode's called Boys Night Out, the most interesting stuff is not with the boys, it's with the girls. So again, we have this sequence with Glimmer and Adora, because basically after Selenius is destroyed, the entire conversation that they had in episode 7 about we'll work together, we'll get through this, all goes out the window because Glimmer just kind of gets really into no, I must do things and we can't work together because we have to. No one's doing anything. I must do it myself.
Like time has clearly passed. Right. And they're not winning. Like everything is going poorly.
Are they ever winning? I feel like they're always in a downturn.
No, this is the losing season again. From the moment that Double Trouble infiltrated their camp, suddenly they've been losing. I think, which I think the show like establishes pretty efficiently. That just like it's just been going real bad for them. So there's this very intense kind of argument between Glimmer and Adora, where basically Glimmer finally says it. What, at least for me, what I've kind of been theorizing, like, okay, what is it?
Or you've been waiting. You were like, yell at her, yell at her, yell at her.
Kind of like, if anything, I was like, Adora, yell back. Adora,
yell
back.
Well, I agree. I've been waiting. I was like, throw your mom in her face. Like, it's gonna happen. Like,
And I think that's what's been holding Adora back. She's been feel guilty all this time, so.
Yeah. So Glimmer finally says it. All right, if everything was fine, my mom would be here, or something along those lines. She basically blames Adora for the death of her mother.
I told you she's, like I said, like Katara. She always goes one step too far in her arguments, and she can be as vicious as her, and it's just like, wow.
I mean, low blow, but I mean, okay, here's the thing. For anyone who kind of who like kind of, especially when I watched this the first time, for anyone who was like struggling for any kind of the decisions that Glimmer made, because if anything, up to this point, she was the one that was being mistrustful. She was the one that was kind of creating, like, the tension all came from her. It's like, oh, because she's grieving. She lost her mom. She's mourning, and she was thrust into this very high pressure situation without much time. And all this is happening, but my question to you is this, like, can Adora and Glimmer come back from this moment? Because they never reconcile. Like, the episode ends with them not okay. And I don't think for the entirety of the rest of the season, we never see a reconciliation from what Glimmer said in this moment.
No, and then she just goes to space. Like, they're never.
And then she goes to space. And not only does she go to space, she goes to space with Catra.
Right.
And I don't know what's going to happen with them. So many things can happen.
It'd be interesting to see those two together. Like I said, that's like Zuko and Azula. Katara and Azula going on a mission together. But I'm excited to see those two work together. But you know what? I'm also excited though is all the other characters that I've left behind, because you're talking about before how we have the factions. We got our Fright Zone characters and our Rebellion characters, but now I think by default, I think they're all on the same side. So we get to see perhaps maybe people like Bo and Adora and, Perfuma have to work with like Kyle and those other guys.
I mean, I care about Kyle. So any reason to see more Kyle, I'm okay with.
Okay.
Hey, he's trying his very best.
He is.
There is no more Horde. It's pretty much been disbanded. Pretty much, they're just insects, just like everybody else to Hordak Prime. So.
I mean, wouldn't that just isn't the Horde just a small part of the greater Horde that is Hordak Prime, Horde Prime?
Yeah.
I think not sure. Questions. But yeah, so is this the point of no return, Delaney?
I don't think so. Like, so obviously, like, they have hurt each other. They both have. And obviously what Glimmer said is not okay. But Adora's grieving too. Because, she was accepted into Bright Moon. She really looked up to Angela, and this is a big deal for both of them. And we watched it. Like, Adora feels so much guilt for what happens.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And this isn't, like, I do believe it'll be I don't think it's hard to imagine Catra and Adora truly reconciling after everything Catra has done.
Right.
But Glimmer and Adora are on the same team. They believe in the same things. Is Glimmer, does she take things too far? Yes. Yeah. But she, like, ultimately, she has Adora, what's best for Adora, like, in her heart. Like, that's what she wants, to protect Adora. That's why she did everything she did. She wants to protect everyone she loves. And they can come back from this. It was definitely very, like, hurtful. And especially when we get here, like, later when they're on the boat and Glimmer tries to go and, like, comfort her, And this is hard, but they just need to sit down and talk. I don't know if we have time for that, but like that's what we need. I don't think this is the end. Granted, I also ship Glimmer and Adora really hard. So whatever.
Do you think? All right, question for both of you. So are the decisions that Glimmer makes, do they stem from them losing? Or, I mean, is it at its core, is it that she lost Angela? Or is it more like, it's hard to like be so like, oh, it's this, not this. It's everything. Right. But is it like basically are both things on the same level? Like, is it she's grieving and she's losing? Or is it she's grieving and then the losing's like just kind of, amplifying these emotions she's already feeling?
I don't think... Go ahead.
I think it's because she has all this responsibility just thrust on her just so, all of a sudden, as we saw in the first episode of the season. And I think that's just amplified, just slowly getting worse and worse. All this pressure. She feels like she has to solve like all the world's problems. She has to win the war by herself.
Gotcha. Delaney?
So, for me, I mean, similar to what Steve said, I don't think she's not able to grieve. She hasn't been able to grieve. And I think that's that's the big thing with her blowing up at Adora. I don't think it's impacting her decisions in so much that she's queen and she has and she's not the same queen. She's not Angela. And so this is more, part of it I think is like proving to herself that she can do this, that she can be the queen that Bright Moon needs. But also, she truly believes that this is what needs to happen for them to win, to survive. And I think that's really what it is. It's the desperation of she doesn't have the boundless optimism that Adora has. And I think the reason, I would say before her mother died, she would have agreed with Adora, but because her mother died, she's lost so much that it's, and again, very similar to Catra. Catra's lost everything, but they react to them differently. And so she's lost everything. And so she is like, we have to do whatever it takes. Like, this is what we need to do to win, to survive. And, to win, so that's what I think. I don't think it's like you said, it's not one thing or the other, but she hasn't been able to grieve, and then because of her mother dying, she can't think the way that Adora thinks.
And it's not just Adora; it's also Bo that she's sort of have distanced herself from.
Yeah. Well, it's that optimism that they're like, no, we can do this together, and Glimmer's like, and that's the other thing. It's also the reality, Glimmer. And again, I was very struck watching these is just how grown up Glimmer looks, and I think that's really the big thing here is. And they all have grown up, but Glimmer had to grow up immediately. Like, she had to become queen. And so, they're not just kids trying to save the world anymore. Glimmer is the leader of a nation. Like, she is in charge of a whole people. That's a lot. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, she really has had to, be in charge. And I think that's another big part is that, everything was kind of like a kid game before this season.
Right. Do you guys think, because there is this interesting line in the beginning of this episode where Glimmer goes, well, I'm queen. Basically, kind of. That's not the exact quote, but she basically goes, well, I'm queen, so you have to do what I say.
Well, there's this part where I think it's when they're in the war room and they're arguing, and she's like, I'm queen, you can't tell me what to do. And and she says this a couple times this season, and it's hard not to blame her because they are a team. But I mean, I think, and I don't necessarily think like her attitude's the best, but again, it's hard to blame her. Also, she's a child. But here we are. We have, and I think what they're trying to express specifically is that yes, she's worried about Etheria and what she needs to do, but she also is now personally responsible for all of these people.
Okay.
And I'm not thinking like power went to her head. I mean, I think that could happen to Catra. I mean, she gets a little power, she might get a little power hungry. But
she uses it more like Catra uses her power to hurt people, and Glimmer she keeps saying that I'm queen to keep other people from being like, no, you can't do that. And she's like, I can do whatever I want because they're keeping her from going on missions, and obviously we're like, stay at home, you're the queen. Granted, I understand where she's coming from. Like she's a great fighter and she can help.
Right.
She doesn't want to lead from the sidelines, which that's what her mother did. Like
Right.
her mother didn't enter the battle, and but Glimmer's not her mom, so
yeah. And do you think part of that tension is that people are expecting her to be her mom?
I think so, definitely. Well, it's also this idea like they just lost their queen, they have the new queen, we don't want her to die,
right?
Like that kind of that fear. And again, she's a target, and Adora and Bo are always going to want to protect Glimmer. So I think that's also that difference. They also now they're friends, but they also have that deference to her because she's the queen, and so now
there's
well,
because
the difference is Adora, Adora and Glimmer are equal, like authority wise, because Adora's She-Ra. Bo is Glimmer's subject.
Yeah, right. And so is everybody else.
Right.
I think.
But
what about the princesses? Are they?
And Glimmer is. I would think Glimmer is technically in charge of the Princess Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but is Adora then at the same level as Glimmer? Given that, I mean, it's She-Ra, but She-Ra is the princess, right? She's one of the princesses of power.
I hate to keep comparing it, but it's like Glimmer is like a world leader in the world of Avatar, and Adora is the Avatar in terms of
So I would say they're equal. Like, they're equal.
They're equal? Yeah. Okay. So,
granted, I don't necessarily know if they individually feel that way, but
right. But there has been a shift in power dynamic, and I think the decision to give Glimmer this new look, whereas Adora and Bo keep their old looks, I think is very much a decision of she's in a different place. She's different now, whereas they're still the same, and that's causing friction. Well, not that they're the same, but they're going down different paths now. If that makes sense.
Right? Yeah. No. Definitely. And that's where we end up at the end of the season.
Right. Yeah. Basically. So while all this is happening, there's something major happening with Catra on the other side, which is she finally notices that Scorpia is gone.
This is so heartbreaking, but I'm also like, you suck.
Kind of deserved it. And it's great, though. Scorpia, she's not in any of these episodes, but she has such a big impact on these 2 episodes.
She has, she has such a big impact just on the season, like, when she's not there. Like, she's... And same thing with Entrapta.
Yeah, yeah. And there is nothing more heartbreaking than not hearing Scorpia.
Yes, in the static.
Like, Scorpia's presence is just constant, whenever she's not on screen, her presence is missing.
I know, Beatrice, you're all with the Horde and, Entrapta.
What do you mean I'm all with the Horde? Look, I can ship Entrapta and still be like, I don't want them to survive. I want them to be together in jail, thinking about the wrongdoing they did, but also, being together.
What I'm trying to get to is, what do you think of perhaps Scorpia and Entrapta? It seems that there's something sort of been teasing this season, too, that it seemed in Scorpia's heart she might have just dumped Catra for Entrapta in terms of her closest friend.
Maybe, I mean, something that I did find interesting is that we don't see Scorpia's letter. We don't see it, which is an interesting kind of decision. What do you think it says? Do you think it says just you were a bad friend, period, or I wonder, I'm going to get Entrapta?
Yeah, I know.
Something.
Well, I'm curious if it's similar to the conversation they had.
Right.
When Scorpia and Catra were in the hall.
I don't think the letter outright said bad friend and all, because I think what happened later on in the season, Double Trouble's little talk with Catra, that when she finally sort of woke up and kind of realized that she was to blame for all this and realized she's a horrible person.
Right. Will we ever find out what her letter says?
I don't probably. Oh my god! Oh, yes. When they get together at the end, we're gonna find out.
Okay. All right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Catra's in space right now, so
it's true.
I mean, maybe Scorpia will find the letter and just I don't know. I kind of love that we never got to see what the letter says, simply because it kind of gives this sort of intimacy to what was said between them, and I love when when audiences are kind of forced out of the intimacy between 2 characters. it kind of goes like, no, this is so intimate between them that we're not going to share it with you. So I kind of love it, but at the same time, I also do want to know.
It makes it gayer.
Yeah, I mean, I really do want to know. Like, I mean, it's Scorpia. Is it a long letter? Is it short? Like, I want to know. Like,
how does she write with her claws?
Yes! How does she write with her claws? Very... Oh, maybe it's with her tail, you know, like...
What? That makes even less sense. That has to be harder.
It's like ink, you know, and,
like, I agree with you.
Point,
okay, I see. Okay, I didn't consider actually dipping it in ink. Okay, I see what your point is, and I agree with it.
All right, so before we end this, I just want to say, Seahawk was right. that like his plan worked just with Mermista, which shows...
It was a bad plan.
You know, it was a bad plan, but it worked with Mermista.
It wasn't even his plan.
I'm just saying.
I do like that. I do like it was revealed that the whole Seagulls plan actually worked when it looked like it was just a complete dud.
No, but I like how Mermista basically confirms, like, oh, I do feel better with saving people.
Oh, and I love how Mermista just reveals, like, the boys are in trouble. The Seagulls told me.
Yeah,
and
she's like, a seagull told me. It was great.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Seahawk was right about this one thing.
Which just really emphasizes that he really does understand Mermista. Like they have a very healthy relationship, I think, sometimes, because I do think sometimes Mermista is very mean to him, but it's fine.
But he deserves it.
But it's also kind of playful mean. It's not like Glimmer being mean to Adora all season.
Well, that's different because that's different though. That's not. They're not. Glimmer and Adora aren't in a relationship. This Mermista and Seahawk are, and this just
are they?
I think so. I think it's fair to say that they are.
Mm-hmm. All right, fine. I guess you can say so, but I'm still going to ship her and Perfuma. So
I'm not telling you not to. I'm not telling you not to.
I'm just not sure. Like I'm not like arguing. It's just more like it's unclear.
A lot of these relationships are unclear. A lot of them.
Like, I definitely think Seahawk thinks they're dating, but I don't think that means they are dating.
Oh, I love Seahawk. I just
well, the fact we still, no matter what, we still got Spinnerella and Natasha. So no matter what, they can't take that away from us.
True.
I hope.
True.
Yeah.
So the episode ends with Glimmer and Adora's friendship worse off than before. Clearly, when Glimmer goes to comfort her, that's not the apology, right? That doesn't count, right? That's not her trying to apologize. And like
Adora, I think Adora acted in her right because, like, I mean, you have time. Glimmer's been mad all week. You can go be mad.
Yeah, it's fair. Her turn.
The ending of this episode is the saddest thing in the universe.
As much as we say they need to talk it out, sometimes also need a space cooling off period is just as important.
Yeah. The thing is, now this cooling off period includes Glimmer in space with Catra.
Yes.
So let's just very briefly, you know what? I'm not even going to ask it. I was like, well, what do you think is going to happen with Glimmer and Catra in space? But that is such a big
That's
question.
its own podcast.
That's
I could be some funny shenanigans, but
all right, fine. Final question, because I do feel like we have been ignoring him for most of this podcast. So, Bo, it's not his responsibility to fix Glimmer and Adora's friendship.
Absolutely not.
Right. It's and you know, I think, and you know, for the most part, I do think he has tried to like stay out of it a lot. I don't think he actually takes a side until that one scene near the end of the season when he yells at Glimmer, "You're wrong."
Yes,
So at this point, he's not taking any sides. He's just kind of in the middle, right? Yeah, and it's it's poor Bo. Yes. That's a horrible, horrible place to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's not your job, Bo, to fix their relationship. Like and
it's really hard on him.
Yeah, we did see that a lot in this episode. I do appreciate that.
I think this episode he might have gotten that lesson.
I don't know. I don't think he'd got that lesson. I think it's just, you know, I think he wished that it would have been fixed with a song, and it wasn't. And I was actually kind of surprised when I first saw the episode that it wasn't fixed at the end.
Probably the funny part of Octavia. Octavia talking to a Bo saying how he's such a downer and talking about his speech. I kind of wish she would have at least maybe compared him to Kyle and like, oh, you kind of remind me of that Kyle kid.
No, I don't think she would know who Kyle was, to be perfectly honest.
Sure.
I don't think she
But
would
knows
have
who
really...
Scorpia is. You know, they never worked together because I know she was
She knows who
Scorpia's
Catra
underling.
is, but yeah, so... Also, you know, further emphasis that Scorpia really is important because everyone was like waiting for, Scorpia is basically the one that kept the wheels turning at the Horde. But yeah, I think that does it. Any final thoughts on these 2 episodes, Steve?
Mysteries.
Go for it.
I was ready.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Mysteries is just the best episode. That's it.
Of the season?
I don't know. I would probably put it in my top 10 of the series.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I would go so far as to say I would put it in my top 5 of the series. But yeah, Steve, what about you?
Mermista is a masterful detective. Her sleuths on mysteries. She's a detective buff. She loves reading stuff like Nancy Drew, Sherlock Holmes. So she's somebody I can relate to because I love like a good mystery. So even though we are deprived of the mystery, Mermista, best princess.
All right. Well, thank you so much to both of you. And everyone, you can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. Yeah, what's up?
One last thing. Just thank you very much for having me over. It's fun being on the She-Ra podcast. Hopefully I can be back next season if there's another Mermista-centered episode. So, see ya.
Hopefully we'll get another Mermista episode. You can find out all the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to text chat about animation at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Hugh, aka Hugh Neutron. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, Brian, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, Hugh, Michael, and Needle. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.